Hey, hi all, welcome back to BLR Knowledge Center. In this today's session, we'll see what is the difference between instance, variable, and reference of a class in C Sharp. So far we have discussed about instance, right? And out of class, we discussed about variable and reference variable, right? And in type variable, out type variable, right? Ref type variable, right? But coming to the class, what exactly the purpose of having instance and variable and reference, and what are the differences between these three, kind of syntaxes or kind of processes which we are going to use to access and store the values. So when it comes to instance, as I mentioned, to consume a class, right, we need to have a reference to that particular class. So until unless if we are not creating instance to the class, memory is not going to be allocated, right? If we want to be allocated memory, we have to create instance to the class. That's what the class we talk about so far. Right. Coming to the variable. So when you create a variable with the help of a class, that becomes a class variable, right? And as a programmer, it is very important for us to understand what are variables, references, and instances of a class. Variable of a class is nothing but a copy of a class, right? Right? Even you talk about anything, like first we'll see a variable, right? When you talk about variable, right? So as a programmer, right, it is very important for us to understand, right, what are variables, what are variables, right? Instance or an reference of a class, right? So when you look at the variable, right? Variable, right, of a class means a copy of a copy of class that is not initialized. Variable of class means a copy of class that is not initialized. That is not going to be assigned anything. It is just defined a variable of class type. For example, EMP E. I just declared a variable of type class, not initialized, right? Coming to the right instance or whatever reference instance of a class means this is also a copy of a copy of a class, right? That is initialized. That is initialized by using new keyword, right? If you want to create a class, we are going to use a new keyword, right? That is nothing but instance, right? So it has its own memory and it's never shared with another instance, right? It is going to have its own memory. It is going to, which is having its own memory and it won't share to other objects or instances. Every instance is having its own memory when you create instance, right? The reference of a class means, right? This is also a copy of class that is again initialized using an existing instance and references of a class will not have, right? Class will not have any, right? Other references or any other memory allocation. It still refer the instance memory. Okay, it is going to share the memory of the same instance and assign for initializing the variables. Looking at this, 2 and the 3, variable is a kind of copy of a class, instance also copy of class, and reference also copy of class. So instance means, for example, then EMP, right? This is something instance, right? Equal to new EMP. That's how we're going to create. This is going to be initialized using equal. Once you create this instance, it's going to have a bit memory and it won't share the memory to other instance. Coming to the reference of a class, right? If something instance of class you've seen, coming to the reference of a class, this is also a copy of class, but it is going to initialize using existing instance of a class. Like coming to the example, let us say like EMP, right? E1 equal to new of EMP. This is what the reference instance of created. Now what I'll do is EMP E2, I'll declare it this way, right? E2 equal to E1. Understood? So I'm just declaring a reference. So like this, and I'm going to use that, right? Particular stuff in the same way. Okay. So looking at the variables, right? We are not initializing, right? So what is the variable of a class? Variable of a class means a copy of the class. That's what we define, but which is not going to initialize it, right? So then what will happen? What it will happen is, right? When you just declare a variable of class and trying to access it, right? It is going to throw you exception. Got it? So we'll take one by one example here. First, we'll see example for variable of class. Example of a variable, example, right? Variable of class, right? So now here I'm going to define, right, a class. I'm going to my Visual Studio, right? This is my example class, right? And I have a variable and I have main method, and I just created even equal to new. This is not going to be done in this case because I'm not creating instance. I'm just creating, right? EMP, right? The example, right? Here. Got it. Now this is something declaring a variable. This is what? Variable, right? Uninitialized copy of class example. So when I use like u1.x, right? If you try to run this type of code, you will get the following compile time error. That is use of unassigned local variable. Here E is not an instance, right? You can see that error saying that this way. Use of unassigned local variable E1. So it is saying that the exception here is E1 is a local variable, right? And you are trying to access number called X using a variable, which is not possible in C# language since you are getting exception. Got it? So this is what a variable of a class, right? To get rid of this, you need to create instance. That way you are going to achieve this. Okay, let us undo this and keep as it is, right? Uh, just take this, right? I'll go to my classroom and paste it here, right? This is going to go compile time there because it is not initialized. Okay. So coming to the the instance variable, right? Instance variable demo, right? So this is something like copy of the class again, right? Understood. This is just a copy of a variable, a copy of the class, but not initializing. But this is copy of class with initialization, right? So when you look at this same program, right? What I'll do is I'm going to initialize here your example. That way it is going to execute with this. Got it? For more understanding, I'm saying, right? Example, right? E is new example. This is, right, instance of a class. This is E is a instance of a class, right? Or example E, good. This is E is a, right, variable of class. Then E equal to new example. This is E is a, right, instance of a class. Let's go look at the diagram if for more understanding if you want. I think we'll check this in some other demo. I think for now, I think we'll continue this way. So this is like, this is the E is the instance of a class, and here E is a variable of a class. And here E is a instance of a class. Understood? So let's see like what is the differences between, right, variable and instance of a class. Simply, variables of a class, right, nothing but the uninitialized, uninitialized, right, copy of a class. They don't occupy any memory because you are not creating anything, right? When we initialize, right, a variable with the new keyword, with the new keyword, right, then it becomes an instance. An instance is nothing but a copy of a class. So we can access, right, non-static members of the class using, you know, uh, instance variable name. So note that the point that you need to remember is until unless you initialize the variable, the memory allocation will not be done. Once you initialize the variable using new keyword, then only memory allocation will be done. And then only you can access the non-static members of the class. And instances are going to be created by using the keyword, and that automatically allocating memory, and you can directly access the class members. Okay, so I hope you understood the instance and variable, and we'll see the reference type in the next class, right? How we are going to declare a reference of a class and the difference between reference and variable and instance of a class. Okay, thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe this channel for more videos. Thank you.